we can listen later. I'm going to share the screen so you can see it. There's not much to go over as far as numbers. So I'm just doing just a couple minutes here on just some updates real quick, and then Kendra and Alex will get started with the questions that we had. Anybody that has any questions that pop up in their head, make sure you're writing down your questions, because we'll give you about 15, 20 minutes at the end to ask any questions to Alex or Kendra. And then, so let me just go over the goals so far. So August, last year, we had 32 pendings and we have 12 right now. So we're only 30, we're a little bit behind. So if you guys have any transactions that you're negotiating, I'd love for you to email me or text me. See if we can help you get those houses under contract, listings or buyers, because we're a little short with our goals. I wanted just a couple reminders. Let me go specifically. We have a contest right through September 5th. So if you add 100 contacts, by acting agents by referrals, or add 50 contacts to your database, and then you download your mobile app and then ask Kelly 3 questions. So Kelly is the mobile app that we now have. So just remember that. Power Hour, we all know that's going on. Next Wednesday, the 29th, is the Amazing Race. I'm going to send out the Google Sheet sign up. It looks like we have like 9 or 10 teams. Hope you guys are excited about that. So meet, if you're going to participate in the Amazing Race, it starts at 10 o'clock sharp right at the training room. So make sure you come on time, because everybody's going to grab their packet and leave. You're going to come back at 12. So you only have 2 hours to do the first part. And then from 12:30 to 2, you'll have the second part. So make sure you're on time for that. I think that's pretty much it. So let's get started. So let me I basically sent you guys some questions. So give me, Alex, if you can go first, like how long have you been in real estate? And give me a little bit of perspective for people that may or may not know you, like how many houses have you sold, stuff like that.
So I have been in real estate for just over 1 year. I got my license on July 11th of last year. And this year I have, if you count my under contract, I have 11. Last year, I think I did 4. So total, if you count the ones that have not technically closed yet, 15 homes.
Okay, that's great. And then Kendra, can you give me the same rundown of yourself?
Yeah, so I've also began July of last year, so it's been about a year and 2 months. And I'd have to go back and look, but I think it's either 16 or 17 homes now. I just had one close, so I think that put me at 17.
Yeah, it is 17.
Okay, and it's about a little over 2.7 million in volume, and that's all this year. Last year, whenever I first started in July, I didn't have any closings. My first contract was a listing, and it closed in December, right before Christmas, and that was my first paycheck last year. But then everything else has been, from January until now.
Good. Well, I think that I appreciate you both guys sharing that. I think it's important that that everybody's listening, is that you guys are in the similar, as far as time frame experience. You guys I didn't realize you both were in July. That's kind of funny. And so
I technically got my license in June, but I was gone for like 3 weeks, I think, right after I got it. So I actively started working, I think, July.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that. So this is going to be a good discussion, because it'll be a little bit of a contrast and comparison, because you guys are going to have different answers to some of the questions. But I like the fact that you're kind of in alignment from a volume standpoint, and you're in alignment with how much experience you've had so far in your business. So what I want to ask you guys is, we talk about lead generation a ton at Keller Williams. And, as coaching, I always say we need to find what's working for you, not not do 25 different things. So we call it like lead generation pillars. What are the things that and I'll go to Alex first, and then I'll kind of go to Kendra, and we'll keep going back and forth. Like, Alex, what are the 3 things that you tend to focus on that you found early on that became a strength for you, that you enjoyed it, that you felt like you were comfortable and have given you some good leads from?
Sure. Well, I definitely started with my sphere. Like, my sphere, I hit them really hard in the beginning.
And what does that mean? Can you expand on what hit really hard means? Like over the head? Or?
I was talking to a minimum of 20 people a day about real estate. And I didn't like cold calling, like most people don't. So I was talking to people that I already knew and just telling them about the career change. And then when I got to the point where I ran out of people to talk to about my career change, I would come up with a new reason to talk to them. Like, I would tell them to go like my Facebook page, or tell them to participate in a survey that I had on my page, or something like that, so that it was a constant reminder that I was in real estate. But it wasn't just like, hey, I'm a realtor, send me a referral. It was just, hey, help me out by, doing this small task.
So you had 20 conversations a day. Can I say that, what did that look like in a typical day? 20 people, I hear conversations where, I can't even get to my 10, it's so hard because people won't answer the phone. And how did you become purposeful with getting 20 people to talk to you?
It's a lot. So, there were days where I was using the sheet very similar to the sheet that you just gave us for the 10 conversations a day, where I would mark off every time I reached out to someone. And there were days where I was getting up to like 50 or 80 people that I had reached out to, but I hadn't heard back from them, so they didn't technically count. A lot of what I was doing was texting or social media messaging. So I wasn't always getting a response. And only when I got a response did I count that as a contact for the day. And again, like, the fact that I was doing it through text and social media, like, it kept the conversations pretty quick and to the point. And it really worked well for my sphere because I'm a millennial, and we all know how millennials are. They don't really talk on the phone. They text, they message. That's about it.
Yeah. So I think that was good. So, up to almost 80 contacts, you're reaching out with no responses. And but that was kind of your one main thing. It's good. What would you say your other couple were, other than your sphere?
Networking is a big one. I refer to myself sometimes as a serial networker. Like, I always feel that I'm doing better face to face when I can connect with people. So I go to any networking event that I can. Like, I'm on Facebook hitting interested on every single networking event that pops up that I'm interested in. And then another one would be open houses, because again, I feel more comfortable when I'm face to face and having those conversations. So those are just the 2 things that came most naturally to me.
And with networking, real quick, how many would you say, when you say you call yourself a serial networker, how many networking things do you do on an average week?
Average week, I would say a minimum of 2. I am in Synapse, which we meet every other week. So I'm at least going to one every other week, even if I'm not making it to something every week. And then I oftentimes will go to at least one in the evening, whether it's like a happy hour networking or something along those lines. Okay.
And then open houses, how many do you average on a month for open houses?
Recently I haven't been as good about it, but my goal would really be 2 per month, but I'm sort of having to readjust my schedule to make that happen. So realistically, I've probably only done like 1 every other month, which is really sad in comparison to my goal. So, but I'm working on it. I'm going to get better about it.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So Kendra, on your side, what do you think your strengths are? What's your main one that you think you focus on, and then the other two that kind of help bring you the leads and contacts?
So I definitely started with my sphere as well. Sending out the introduction letter was really nice. I kind of personalized it because whenever I sent it out, it was right before the school year. So I personalized it, geared towards, the market of maybe, families that might be looking for a new home, or, how that would help sellers and buyers. So definitely a lot of my sphere were vendors. So I also, for my previous job, I just reached out to all of them. My sphere and my vendors are kind of in the same kind of category because, like I said, they're all just kind of the same category. So
right?
Yeah, they totally overlap. So I had to categorize them because it was really hard for me to separate some of them. And I just really called them and started to find out, like, hey, how does your business operate? What are you offering? Do you have specials throughout the month? Because, trying to plan for the big picture, the long-term goal, I definitely wanted to know, like, when was the best time to be referring them? I'm going to be dealing with a lot of new clients, how can I? So they really liked that. And of course, it's coming from that contribution, and they kept me in mind. But, I would use Facebook as my kind of second pillar there, in line with the sphere and vendors, to kind of just, I didn't really necessarily use, because I was more on the phone in the beginning trying to call everybody and talk with them personally, but I used Facebook as like follow my journey with me. And then kind of wanted people to connect with that as I was going through the classes, or, whatever was going on new. I just, it was really hard at first to share that on social media, because everybody really thought of me still from my previous job because I was there for so long. So I had to really use Facebook to like get people to understand, like, this is me, this is where I'm going 100%. I'm still going to be that 100% friendly person, but I'll be able to help you guys on a much bigger level. And I'm super passionate about it. And, so I think that really helps me connect with my sphere and vendors, and then just studying the market and putting some knowledgeable information out there to them whenever I could.
What would you say if somebody says to you that they're nervous about Facebook because they've kind of either kept it private or more family oriented, and now they're trying to adjust or add real estate in, and they're uncomfortable with it because they feel like it's soliciting business, or it just comes off a little different. Did you have that same fear at first when you were taking your sphere and vendors and kind of warming them up through Facebook as well, or did you just do it and not worry about it?
So it was really funny that, in the beginning I was super comfortable and confident with it. And then once I was actually in production, I stepped away from it. And I, went during our coaching session one time, for some reason I started to get that fear that I never had before. And I didn't do it for a while because I was like, well, I'm focusing over here. It's okay. I don't need to do it. People know. I don't know. I just did have that kind of fear of, I don't want to bombard people with it. But then I would say as advice, like, track your numbers, which is, track your lead sources, which I wasn't so great about in the beginning. But then whenever I did track them and go back and look at it, like, you have nothing to lose by posting on social media. Everybody's posting anyway. So why not post something knowledgeable, set a schedule, do it on a Sunday night. But, then if you get one lead from one post that took you 5 minutes to create, less than that probably, but let's say you take 5 minutes on a Sunday to plan a few posts that are super creative and fun that catch people's attention, and you do it consistently and it pays you, and you see that on when you're tracking your numbers, then you kind of say, oh, okay, well, so what if 30 people don't like it or don't want to see it? These other 20 people did want to see it and it paid me, so that's where you get re-motivated for it, is like, you have nothing to lose. It's a part of you. Just, share something that you're comfortable with, be personal, how it relates to you. It's okay to be a little bit vulnerable on there, and keep it short and simple. Nobody likes reading all the long, crazy posts except for every once in a while. But, just something simple, I would say, and you get people to randomly message you. They may turn up, they may not. I did my post that I felt comfortable and confident with that didn't have too many words on there, I would just go ahead and spend $5 and boost the post, and it would reach those random people, that would send me messages. So I would say if you're uncomfortable with it, like pick maybe 3 times a week that you are comfortable with and schedule them, and then you don't have to think about it. You don't have to let that fear get in the way of it, and it'll post it for you.
Can I ask you, Alex said that she called obviously her sphere pretty religiously at the beginning. Did you sent out the intro letter you mentioned? How many letters did you remember were mailing out? And did you call a certain amount of people every day as well? Or what was when you're looking at your sphere kind of kickstarting that? Do you remember?
So I know that I sent out, I think, 200 letters. And that is one thing that was later on in my notes that I was not good about in the beginning, was tracking, my activity. And then, so I really didn't track it in the beginning. My mindset was like, I'm just, okay, 3 hours today, I'm just going to do as much as I can in that time. And I would go like full force, but then, later on, whenever I was planning for the bigger picture, trying to see, that's whenever it started to get kind of like, well, why am I not tracking certain things? So I wish I would have been more organized about it in the beginning. So, but I was probably, if I look back, I was probably making, realistically connecting with people, like maybe only making 10 phone calls, but, I was also very active in like the kids' sports. And like, if I would overhear somebody talking or, door knocking or something, like I was still making, maybe 20 contacts in other ways too, just getting the word out there randomly in line or something.
What would you say, like if someone said, wow, 200 letters, that's a lot of sphere letters. I don't have 200 people to mail this letter to. Did you have 200 people that you felt like you knew you could mail this letter to, or did you kind of expand your group? Or because I think 200 sounds amazing, which congratulations, but what if you only have 25 or 50? What would be your advice to someone that maybe has a smaller scale version of that?
So I would say, okay, let's say you're going to mail one to your dad's friend at work. Ask your dad, like, hey, when you talk to your friend at work, like, let him know I'm mailing him something, but I'd also like to include his daughter. Is it okay if I, like, take what you already have and, just try to build off of that. And if you don't,
layers in. Then, I like that.
Yeah. So then even if you don't, let's say you reach your max at that and you can only get to 50. Okay, well, who do you know, like, that you're at the coffee shop with or something? Even if you can't mail it to them, like, put it in a sealed envelope, put 10 in your bag or purse, whatever. And, when you're out with people or, maybe make a different letter. Like for me personally, because all of my family was in North Carolina, I mailed out probably 150 here, but I personalized another letter and made it to where it was like not just about me doing real estate in Virginia, but just tweaked it a little bit to say like, hey, you have a real estate agent in the family now. And with Keller Williams, we have access to people, all the agents nationally and internationally. So if you're going to be moving or selling your house or buying a house, I can connect you with a real estate agent that specializes in your area for what you're looking for, your needs.
Yeah.
So don't forget about me.
Yeah, then basically say, and just not Virginia. I think that's sometimes we think, oh, we just need to talk to people that are in Richmond, right? So.
Right. So I really kind of had to like get creative and was like, I have this whole other pool of people that know me and trust me and are rooting for me. How can I help them too? So, some of those letters were in fact like referral, like intentional, but that was it. I couldn't just send the letter. Like I still had to follow up several other times until now, even my grandparents are like, oh, well, we're going to sell our house down in South Carolina. Like, who do you know? So, I mean, it just kind of, but it took several times of, telling them in different ways,
Awesome.
But,
well, Alex, I want to go back to you. The next question I had, and then we'll go back to Kendra. What do you think was, number one, I would say, what was the easiest thing you felt like you fell into with real estate? And then what is one of the things that was maybe the hardest thing that you didn't realize? You're like, wow, that was not what I thought real estate was, or this was more of a struggle than I thought it was. So I want to start off with what you felt like you eased into, what your strength was first, and then give me that maybe aha moment of maybe what wasn't your strength. So
Sure.
insight into that.
Yeah. So, a few things came really easily, like anything creative, any kind of marketing, like that kind of all came easily to me because I know, like I know that I knew from the beginning that I wanted to create a brand. I was an interior designer in the past. I wanted to like use that to my benefit. So anything along those lines came pretty easily. Also, the buying side of things came really easily, not only because everyone in my sphere is buying their first home, but my buying process to buy my own house took over a year, which is really abnormal, but I learned so much during that process that I was really, really able to help people, and I felt really confident about what I was doing. What didn't come so naturally, definitely like the lead generation. I feel like that's probably the biggest surprise for everyone is like, oh my gosh, I have never been, I have the type of personality where like I'm okay being in the background, but like I don't want a lot of attention. I don't want to put myself out there a lot. So doing that at first did make me uncomfortable. I was always worried about being too salesy. And looking back in the beginning, I probably was like kind of salesy and I didn't even need to be. Like I just could be myself and come from contribution and have meaningful conversations with people, and that would have been just fine. But I had that fear in the back of my head the whole time. So those types of things, and then just also dealing with other people's personalities, like having to help people off the fence in the buying process, or like when I'm upset about something, like not letting that affect me emotionally was really difficult.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, both from the creativity side. I can see that you're definitely creative, and I think some of us struggle with that creativity. What would you say to someone that your strength is creativity and marketing, and maybe their strength is not creativity and marketing? What would you say? What would you give advice to that person that maybe struggles with that?
Sure. I would say, like, there are so many great resources out there for people that don't think of themselves as creative, like Pinterest or Canva. Like, those things should be your best friend because Pinterest will give you ideas on anything. You can type real estate into Pinterest and it's going to give you ideas on lead generation, on pop buys, on like so many different things, like marketing ideas, open house ideas. It's just a wealth of knowledge for anybody that wants it. And then like Canva, if you're doing marketing, it can be a little clunky at times, but it's so easy to just pop a picture. I mean, they have real estate flyer templates already available for you on Canva. Like, it's just, you throw your own pictures and type in your own information and you're good to go. So like, there are resources out there for people that don't feel comfortable like with their own creative side. And if that's still not, if that's not even enough, like, I'm more than, like, if anybody ever has a question about like an idea that they have that they're trying to implement and they're not sure how to do it, I'm more than willing to help. And it may just be like needing to reach out to other people, reaching out to somebody that does marketing for a living and helps other realtors. And if they can't, if you can't afford to pay them every single time you need something, they can at least create like a platform for you to use when you need it.
Yeah.
Like I would add to that for sure that, I learned along the way, because I like to get creative and everything, but it's not our job to be creative, even if we are or aren't. Like, I wouldn't focus on that so much because there are so many free apps, and, your job is to lead generate and negotiate contracts. Like, you don't need to be creative. You just need to put your plan in place and use some of the free resources. And once you have more money, like add that leverage to your business. But, you know, that's the main thing is like, you don't have to be creative. It doesn't have to fear you. You just have to find something that's easy and quick, because you got to get on to like lead generating and negotiating contracts. So I mean, because I struggled with that, definitely, because I was like, I got to be creative. I got to do this. It's got to be great. Like I wasted so much time on that. And then it realized and dawned on me, like, I don't need to do this. Like, they're not going to focus on this crap as much as I am. Like, you know, I mean, you know, just get something that, you know, like get something that's catchy, that is just like cool and whatever, and like go on. Like, it's just like with the marketing. I love to market and everything, but I'm not a marketing director anymore. Like, I'm a real estate agent. Like, you have to kind of like whatever you've done in the past or whatever you're really good at, cool, use it. But whatever you're not good at, don't let it fear you either, because you just need to get really good at lead generating and negotiating contracts. Yeah. And, you know, all the other stuff will fall in place.
So it kind of leads it with Alex. You said one of your early ahas was that you didn't feel you were comfortable or strong in lead generation. Do you feel like you've overcome that, or do you feel like you're still trying to overcome it? And then how have you kind of worked through that mentally to kind of work on that skill set for yourself?
I think it'll be something that I have to work at for the rest of my life, just because it is something that is difficult for me to like put myself out there. Okay. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel. Like, for instance, networking, like going into a room full of people that are all already having conversations is so intimidating for me. I hate like inserting myself in those conversations, but that's why I do it so frequently, because the more often I do it, the more comfortable I am. And the minute I start slacking on it, like the next time I go into one of those situations, I know that I feel uncomfortable. Like, you have to continuously do it.
Yeah, because you said one of your pillars is networking, and yet I would say lead generation in a networking environment, some personalities find that the biggest challenge, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that shows that you're doing things that are uncomfortable because you know you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so I definitely think that is an opportunity for you to really continue. It's, again, like you said, it's always going to be a constant thing your whole life. So that's very cool.
Kendra, well, I mean, I think in the... No, you're fine.
No, go ahead. I love to hear what you have to say.
Okay, I was just going to say that in the beginning, like, I was so socially awkward. I would go to those networking events, like immediately go get a drink and then like wander around the room until I saw someone that I was somewhat familiar with. And then once I finally did, like my conversations would be so like shallow, like, how is your day going? And the weather is really nice and like that kind of thing. But the more you do it, the more naturally it comes to you. And you just have to keep doing it to become natural at it.
I think that's great. Absolutely. All right, so Kendra, can you say what are the things that you naturally fell into with real estate, and then maybe those negative things or those things that you realized were not your strengths? So same question as we spoke with Alex.
So I was a little bit opposite as far as the
I accepted that you would.
Yeah, I was super comfortable with, you know, clients and random people. Like, I just didn't care because, you know, I don't know. It's just me. You know, I've always kind of been that way with people. I mean, I could take a really awkward moment with somebody and just guide them in the direction that I wanted to go. But then I didn't put the time into learning the scripts and the answers to the questions that I needed to know in the beginning. Like, I was super personable. I could get people on the bandwagon and, you know, whatever. Like, you know, I had them hooked, but then it's like, crap, well, they're going to ask me a real question and really come up with a defiant answer, and I'm not going to know the right answer to it in the real estate world. So, you know, that was the challenging part, was stepping out of my comfort zone to learn the scripts. But then once I did, it was like really easy to use them and continue. I was like just super comfortable and personal with people and would like relate to them and, you know, watch them and learn like to react how they reacted, and then take it in the direction that I wanted to go. I was really bad in the beginning with picking my 3 pillars. I didn't really see it that way. I was just like, oh, okay, there's like 30 ways to lead generate. Well, we're just going to try them all, like, so I definitely would like pick a few and stick with them because I was super scattered and it took away from my focus on tracking my activities and managing my time. Like the key things, that has been so hard for me is like my calendar, and I've really gotten better at that. And that helps the big picture and the long-term goals. But stepping out of my comfort zone and learning those scripts and dedicating the time to them. And, that was really hard. I would always make excuses, but, just to stick with them. My pipeline, I was horrible with that in the beginning, updating it. I still kind of slack on it sometimes, but then, I put like an event in my calendar at 3, like I molded it to my lifestyle. I was like, okay, if my kids get off the school bus at 4, then like 15 minutes before they get off the school bus, I'm going to take some time to, just update whoever I've talked to in the morning. And then maybe before they go to bed after they go to bed at night, if I talk to anybody in the evening, then I'll do it again, and so I might skip a day or 2, but as long as I know, like I've got to stick with it, then, it becomes easier. It becomes a habit. So those are some of the challenging things to me. Like, I might understand the big picture of running a business and, and getting it in the direction it needs to go is like doing those hyper-focused daily activities that are truly rewarding financially.
Yeah. Well, that gives us a good transition because I wanted to talk to you guys about your time management. So actually, I mean, we can talk about you because you already alluded to it first, but how do you feel like you manage your time, both professionally and personal time? I mean, you've got 17 transactions in the last year. You obviously have deals in the pipeline. You have deals and maybe have fallen apart over that course of a year. Plus, you've got a very active. So I don't know if you're comfortable sharing a little bit of what you got going on in your personal life as far as other responsibilities.
Yeah.
How do you balance that professional space,
totally fine,
family space? And do you use a specific tool? Like, do you use a paper calendar, an electronic calendar, a poster board, a dry erase board? Give us some kind of tangible things that you use to kind of help run your day, if you could.
So in the beginning, I tried to use the paper calendar because I was always I'm very visual and hand, but so that didn't work out for me because I would be on the go and it wasn't as accessible as my phone. So I started using, I have the Samsung Galaxy 8. So on there you can, and I'm sure you can do something like this with the iPhone, but you have widgets. And so when I open my phone and you see all my apps, if you scroll to the right, you can just see your whole month. And then if I scroll to the right again, it's my whole day. So it's like super right in my face. When somebody's asking me a question or I'm on the phone, it's just there. I needed to have something that was super instant. And, and I take the time. Like when I was at the dentist office this morning with the boys and, they're setting appointments, I'm like, okay, hold on. I need to add that right now. Like, I had to really start adding things right then. Like with my boys, I have 2 boys. They're 7 and 8. My oldest one is in football now, and that practice is 5 nights a week. And then my younger one's in karate now. So it's like super busy. My husband's military, so he hasn't been here. I've pretty much been a single mom forever. So my personal life, that comes first. Like my kids always come first. And I think to manage my business life and my professional life properly, I had to set my clients up right from the beginning and tell them, hey, I will do everything I can for you to make this transaction smooth and enjoyable, but there's going to come times where, hey, I have 2 small boys and, I need to feed them dinner in the evenings and get them in bed. If I don't answer your call right away, I'll get back to it after I get them settled, and I told the boys the same thing. They were old enough that I could tell them, hey, whenever you get home from school, I'll give you like an hour of my time, but then mommy's going to have to go back to work for an hour. So I think just setting everybody up how you want it to be and how you're going to run things, like just setting them up for that, like really.
And did you do that early in your business when you didn't even have a deal yet? Or did you learn the hard way like some of us have done and 5 or 6 deals in and you have no life? So how did you set that up early with your clients? Like even your first ones and your boys, or did you kind of wait?
I did it straight from the beginning because I knew it was going to be a huge adjustment because I was coming from working 9 to 5. The boys were in after school care. Like, when I came home, I was home. So I really had to tell them from the beginning, like, you're going to see me at home a lot more, and I want this to be this way with you, but in order for it to work and all of us be happy, sometimes when I'm working, I'm going to really need you to understand that this is going to be focused on work time, but you're going to have my time too, but please work with, like I had to really set the standards for them early on. With clients, like, it took a couple of times. I didn't let them walk all over me. Like, I just told them, like, hey, if I don't get back with you, I'll get back with you in a little bit. But then I realized, like, it's okay to be, like, they're being personal with me. Like, they're sharing so much information with me, and I don't condole, like, I don't say, like, give out so much personal information because I don't want them knowing necessarily where my kids go to school and everything right away. But, I could tell them, like, hey, I have 2 small children and I have needs to take care of at home, so sometimes if I don't get with you right away.
That, right? I mean, they usually honor that. And if they don't respect that, I'm not sure that you want to work with that anyway. But
oh my gosh, they're so, like, respectful towards it. And I think especially if they see you working really hard for them, like, they're going to feel bad if they, like, they're going to, like, feel bad if they don't. And I know in the beginning we take whatever we can get. You can't be like, no, I'm not going to work with these people because they're not very nice, and you can do that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I've had a couple of friends, because in the beginning that, I was, like, just willing to work with whoever. And, it's very important to kind of, pick and choose. Like, don't work with people that are going to interfere with your personal life in a negative way. Because there's still a lot of business out there. But yeah, I really set it up from the beginning, and I still do. I tell people, like, I'm very professional with them, but then right on, like, a closing note, I'm like, hey, by the way, here's the deal. I'm pretty busy. I have other clients. I'm putting you right up there. I have kids. You're going to get my time. Here's when you can call me in the morning. If I don't answer the phone, text me. I might have a kid who's throwing a fit. Like, if it's an emergency, just text me because I don't want you to hear him screaming and crying in the background. Like, most of them are super cool.
So I think, and that I think that appeals to some folks. So that's good. So Alex, I want to ask you the same thing as far as how do you manage your time, both professionally and personal. You have a different, obviously everybody has slightly different dynamic from a personal level. So can you kind of give, if you're comfortable, share your take on your personal and professional and how you decided, and then some tools as well, similar to Kendra?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have kids. My significant other is a firefighter, so he's gone for 24 hours at a time. So my thing is, like, those 24 hours that he's gone, I'm going to be, like, nose to the grindstone. Those are my hours to really pump out as much work as I can, because the 24 hours that he's home, like, showings are going to happen, inspections are going to happen. I'm going to be taken away from our time together anyway, so I really need to focus a lot of my work time in the time that he's gone. And for the most part, I mean, that works really well. There are days where he comes home and I'm in the office and he's, like, wanting to be chatty Cathy, and I'm like, I really have to get some work done. And you just have to be honest and say, we have financial goals together. If we want to meet those goals, like, I need to put in the work, and I need you to be patient. And I'm so thankful he's been so patient and supportive this whole time, as honestly, like, my biggest cheerleader. So I'm really, really thankful for that. I think one thing that has definitely helped us is that I also keep my calendar on my phone and my computer, and it's shared with him. So he can look on his phone and know exactly what I'm doing that day, where I am, when we're going to have free time together and when we're not. So that's been really helpful as well.
And so you mentioned, do you have kind of, you're blessed in the sense that your significant other supports you. If you were to talk to an agent or give advice on maybe that you don't have that same environment where, maybe their spouse or partner is, still tugging on them to do tasks, or maybe not as supportive, what do you think your advice would be to them to help them over that hurdle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we still, even as supportive and great as he's been, we still run into, like, roadblocks every once in a while where, like, I'll be on my computer and he'll be asking me a question and I don't hear him, and then he gets really upset about that. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to be very careful about it. You have to I think it's a lot about communication. Like there was a long time where he was like, oh, you're working from home. Like I should come home from my shifts at the station to like a beautiful clean home, no dishes in the sink, no laundry to be done because it's already done. And I had to explain to him like, that's not my job. Like I might be working from home, but my job when I'm at home is to still be focusing on real estate. And if I happen to get those things done, great, but I also need you to understand that that's not what I'm getting paid to do. And if you want us to make money, like I have to be focused.
Yeah.
So
And
a
did
lot
you
about
have those conversations
communication.
early in your career too? Or did you maybe have to stumble a little bit to do that?
We definitely stumbled. I mean, I remember there was one day where we legitimately got in a fight about dishes in the sink. And it was, you know, it was just a matter of like me having to explain to him my perspective and say like, I might be physically here, but I am mentally somewhere totally different. Like I'm in my office, I am at work. Like dishes in the sink are not my priority. But then I also have to make sure that like I'm also on the mornings that I know he's coming home from the station, I might dedicate like 1 hour to picking up things around the house and getting it a little bit tidier. And like those nights, the nights that he's home, like I try not to schedule my networking events on those nights so that I am giving like quality time to him and respecting the time that he's home as well.
Yeah, awesome. So I just have one question. I think Kendra's boys are on the phone with us too.
Yeah.
We should really ask them questions is what we should do.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that would be the honest answers right there. So I have one last question before. Yeah. I open it up to anybody who has specific questions for you guys. But you know me, I'm always about mindset, and I think sometimes real estate, everybody thinks rainbows and sunshine, and it's not always that. We get rejection every day. We deal with spouses or partners and just maybe not perfect scenarios with home inspections. So I'll start with you, Alex. Like, how do you keep yourself in the right mindset for this job? Do you do anything specifically like journaling or reading? Because, you know, let's just keep it real. This is not always fun, sexy, amazing, awesome day stuff. So how do you keep your head in the game? And then, of course, after you answer, I'd like Kendra's perspective as well. So how do you stay in the right mindset in real estate?
Yeah, I'm also like a personal development junkie. So I love reading books and like honestly going from my past career, which took over my life and I was in a very unhealthy place, to this career where I could really make it what I wanted to be. I focused on getting healthy and making time for like meal prepping and staying physically fit. And like those things changed my life. So they definitely changed my mindset. And then in addition to that, hi. No, it's okay. Surrounding yourself with the right people is so important. Like I said, my significant other is my biggest cheerleader. But when I got into real estate, my best friend at the time was not supportive, and she did think I was being salesy all the time. And I think a lot of her negativity came from a place of like, I hate to sound this way, but it kind of came from a place of jealousy because I was making the life that I wanted to have and I knew that she wasn't. And she definitely like talked down to me, and unfortunately we're not friends anymore, but I am in such a like mentally healthier place because I'm surrounding my people with my supporters, with my cheerleaders, and they're the people that lift me up when I am feeling down about something. So that's really important too.
I like that. I think that's important that people hear that, because I think sometimes we enter into real estate and we think someone's going to be our biggest cheerleader, and then sometimes they're not. And so it's obviously not intentional, but they're seeing a different side of you. They're seeing you from an entrepreneur building your own business. So I definitely think that's powerful. Good. All right. Well, what about Kendra? What do you think from a mindset? What do you do to kind of keep your head in the game with all the stuff you got going on in your world?
Well, it's ultimately, this just everything, well, where I came from before, everything was an investment for somebody else and their family. And, I was just working, to get that paycheck that I didn't like seeing. So, my motto is everything that I'm doing is an investment for my family and but all while still changing other people's families, in a positive way. And so, I'm in control of the results. If, sometimes I don't work as hard as I probably could, but, my lifestyle for me personally, my kids are only little for so long. So I do the best that I can. And I know one day it might be more, but I think ultimately to maintain a positive, mindset, not get let down, you just really have to have that thick skin. And, there's going to be things that go wrong. Days are not going to go as planned. They're going to be super unpredictable. I mean, I just had a transaction that, the painter, I did so great throughout the whole job, but then the painter screwed up that I referred them to. It was a nightmare, but as long as they saw that I still was trying to make it right, they were okay with me. I didn't take it personal, so there's a lot of things I think in this business that you can't take personal. And I think that's what I have to maintain to stay sane, is that, just keep going to the next one. But, if something goes wrong, or even if something goes right and it doesn't, if I get a referral from somebody and it doesn't, turn out to get money for me, okay, it's still at least somebody thought of me and I appreciate it. And, I just still try to look at the big picture. So I think you just have to just stay positive no matter what. And if you're having a bad day and then you come home to your family, significant other, don't let it spill over to them, it's not their fault.
And
whoever
how do you overcome that? Because I mean, you've worked your butt off all day, you're stressed out, a deal blew up, or you didn't get a listing, and then you come home, in your case, to two boys. I mean, and you said, don't push it onto them, but that's a challenging thing to do. What have you done to help yourself be conscious of that from a mindset, so you're not dumping it onto your kids? Is there anything specifically that you've done to kind of make sure you keep that in check?
I mean, of course we all get frustrated, and vent. I might call my husband and say, hey, I just need to vent. I don't need you to say anything. I don't need you to have any advice. I just need to vent. Have somebody that you can just have that, that neutral barrier with, whether it's somebody close or not.
Say the stuff that you shouldn't be saying, and just say it out loud.
Need to vent. Either that or I go out to my garden. I created a garden because whenever I'm working at home a lot because of the kids, and my house is kind of small, I just need to go outside. I tell the kids, hey, sometimes you guys need a timeout. I need a timeout right now. Just don't talk to me for a minute. And I did start working out. I used to not, but I never was a workout person. But once I started it, even the gym is super scary and nobody wants to get in there in the beginning because you're worried about what everybody else thinks. But just going and having that hour of me time, and whether I'm getting results or not, I'm just there to burn off some steam and energy. And when you come home, you feel genuinely a physical kind of tiredness that you don't take it out on other people around you. And I think for me personally too, is I realize no matter who I come into contact with, you never know what kind of difference you can make in their life just by being nice. So it's coming from that reciprocity, even if there's nothing intentional to come about it, just try to do nice things for people and it makes you feel better. So I try to do that a lot too.
Well, any last things before I open up? If anybody has any questions, kind of think of them right now. But anything, Alex or Kendra, what would be your advice for you guys? Are a year in, you're 15, 17 transactions. Is there anything advice from a new agent that's just getting started a week ago to an agent that's maybe been in the business 3, 4, 5 years? Is there any last thing that you would say that we didn't cover that you wanted to kind of give them some thoughts on? Or do you feel like we got it all?
I would say my piece of advice to anybody is have grace with yourself and with other people. Sometimes
that's powerful.
You just need grace. and patience, because the beginning of this year, I had only been in the business for 6 months, and for some reason I just felt like I should be so much further than I was. And then I was like, why am I putting all this pressure on myself? Like, I'm still new at this. It's okay. So like, have grace. And then also with other people, like they're, what seems to you like a molehill might be their mountain. So, if closing gets delayed a week and they're just so distraught over it, like just try to remove yourself emotionally and mentally from that place and be there to support them. Because what seems to you like a small problem to them eventually will be a small problem, but to them might seem like a big problem.
Right. No, I think that's so true. Anything, Kendra, anything you'd say, or did you cover all the things you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add that, like, there can always be a lot of good and bad in this business, I think. But I think one major thing that I've taken from this past year is, like, there aren't any, like, major emergencies. So whatever your personal life is, whether you can fully dedicate it to work or whatever, like, just don't forget to time manage your personal life as well. But
family business.
Yeah, but stay hyper-focused. There are so many choices of lead generating. Just be super efficient and effective, like with your time. Like Alex, if she has that 124 hours, like if you can give it your all, whatever, just give yourself, a few hours a day, pick something, master it. And, this business, I think, is always going to be ever changing, as anybody could probably tell you who's been in the business for a really long time. But continue to get the word out, study the scripts. It just helps you become more confident, but it's a great business. You can make it about, you and super like focused to yourself. But I think that can be the scary thing too, is like too much free time, can get you into a lot of trouble. You can start to get depressed if you're not having results, I think. So during that time where you can really, be effective, like pick what you're going to do, plan it out, and do it.
Yeah,
so,
love it.
And master it. If it's not working for you, like for me, FSBOs, I used to focus on FSBOs. It did not work for me. So I'm focused back on my farm. And, last year during October, I did that cool, like, Halloween pumpkin carving kit and passed it out. And, but then I didn't really do anything else afterwards because I was focused on so many other things. And I wish that I would have just stuck with it. So now I'm back to it. I'm like my 4th month in. I feel like I'm really getting to know some of my neighbors in my neighborhood. So if something's not working out for you, don't let it depress you. Like move on to the next thing and start mastering that.
Yeah.
But give things time too,
Awesome.
So,
well, anybody have any questions that they're dying to ask? I turned everybody on so you can call. We're near the end of it, but does anybody specifically have a question for Alex or Kendra? Anybody?
This is Deanna.
Hey, Deanna.
I've got a quick question for you ladies.
Okay, go for it.
First is, with 17 and 15 transactions,
did you both cap?
Did you both cap?
I don't think I understood.
Did you, in your first year, did you both cap?
Oh, no. No, I was so close. And that was what was so frustrating is because, I felt like, I let myself get I was so scattered in the beginning, like trying to pick stuff, and then once I felt comfortable and confident with certain areas and really stayed focused on them and really understood that lead generating and your daily activities make a difference in 60 to 90 days, like then I was just on a roll. So then I was mad at myself when I think, Drew, I was only I was pretty close
less
to capping.
than a house. Like it was, it was at one house, but it was, and and the thing is, that one thing is we use it as a measurement, but I think like in your case, it became a deterrent because you were so, if I could,
but capping is a really awesome goal, but I was not sad that I didn't cap. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm proud of myself. I gave it my all in my first year. I learned, what I mean? Like, as long as you're learning and bettering yourself, that's the best, and consistent. Like whenever I started, what made me upset is whenever I saw my numbers go up then down. That's where I was like, okay, where can I add leverage in my business? Because this month I was super busy, but then all of a sudden I wasn't, and it was because I got so busy that I distracted from lead generating. So, if you're getting really busy, like talk to Drew and figure out where you can add some leverage in your business, so that way you can remain consistent. Because, yeah, it sucks. I didn't cap and I could have, but I can't dwell on that. Like, I just have to focus on how am I going to this year? What can I learn from last year? Like, capping is super awesome that Keller Williams offers that. It's a really good goal. But if you can't, like, don't compare yourself to everybody else. Like, look at the people who are capping that have been in business for a while and, figure out what works for you so that way you can be up there one day too. But if it doesn't happen in your first year, I wouldn't let that, make you a bad real estate agent,
No, I know. See,
Alex,
the other thing is kind of related. How do you keep your mindset in the right place if you are financially struggling?
Oh, yeah, it's hard. It is so hard. I was there. I mean, it was so hard for me to I got in debt, the first 6 months. But then, you have to understand, you just got to keep going. If you figure out a way, there's so many free ways to lead generate, and you can't you can't sit back. You've got to get out there and hustle each and every day until you get that paycheck, and then you can get yourself out of debt if you are getting yourself in debt. And, if you screw your credit up a little bit, it only takes a few months to fix it. Keep going. It will be super rewarding. I'm sorry, I don't condone that, but I did it. I paid a few of my bills late in the first 6 months, and I was really sad whenever it started affecting me, but I didn't let it, no, I was on this mission. I'm just going to keep going, and, I was able to, fix it. If you're having a hard time financially, it's not going to last forever if you're doing the activities. There's no way.
Okay.
Alex, do you have a different
I would say,
Yeah,
I would say let that fuel your fire. I have this moment that I think about all the time, and I was probably in month 3 of real estate. I had already maxed out my credit card. I had $20 in my bank account, and I was in the grocery store, and I had to decide whether I was going to buy a wedding card for my dad or groceries. And that moment, that brought me down to my knees practically. And then I was like, I'm not gonna let this deter me. I'm gonna use this and make sure that I never end up in this place again. So let it fuel your fire. Use it as your gasoline to keep going and give it your all.
Yeah, that's powerful. Good. Well, any other questions? Any of you guys, before we hang up, anything else? Okay. Well, that was great. Thank you guys both for your time. I'm excited to see what year 2 is going to turn out. You guys both have had a great year, and I love that. I think the culture of our company is about sharing and mastering. I appreciate you guys' time today. All right.
Yeah, thanks for letting us do it. It's super motivating.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, everybody on the call. I'll send out the recording so you guys, if you want to recap on some of the ahas. I have 4 pages of notes because I've just learned so much from both of you guys. But I'll send the recording out so you guys can hear it again. And you guys make it an awesome day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Drew.
Bye, guys.